What's good, everybody? How you guys doing tonight? Got an instrumental playing for you guys. Let me see if you guys know what this is. It's a classic. Hold on. Hey! Hey! What's up, everybody? 3 weeks. Hey! Y'all sing along. Y'all know who that is. What's good, everybody? This is Jay, your experiential marketing coach, your EXP guru, your favorite tour manager, your favorite team lead, your favorite brand ambassador. However you see me in the industry, thank you, first off, for all your love and support. But for those of you who don't know who I am Jay Davis, and I am an experiential marketing professional. But more than that, I am a mentor to many. I'm a coach also to those in the industry, and I work with many Fortune 500 brands, many clients, many experiential marketing agencies to execute cool activations and events across the country. As we all know, pandemic, the industry kind of took a halt, but everything, with regards to events is concerned, are starting to come back full swing, right? We're starting to see more events being executed. We're starting to see brands and clients see the importance of getting back out there and creating those one-on-one consumer engagements, and just overall getting everybody back into the swing of being outside. We outside. Most, if not all of the states have lifted a lot of their pandemic mandates. So we're going to see an influx of events being executed. But I say all of this to say, I have been coaching a lot of EXPs lately. I have been mentoring many as well. And for those of you who don't know, I am going to be launching a coaching and mentoring program in the coming months. But a lot of the things that many of the experiential marketing professionals have been talking to me about, or some of their concerns, some of their pain points, are dealing with account managers, staffing coordinators, and more importantly, the red flags to be aware of prior to committing to any program, whether that be at a brand ambassador level, whether that be at a team lead level, whether that be at a tour manager level. So let me ask you guys a couple questions really quick. How many of you, if you've been in this industry, the experiential marketing industry, if you've been working as a brand ambassador, team lead at various positions, how many of you have executed an event, you committed to a program or a one-off event, only to find out that your roles and responsibilities were more than you anticipated, or your roles and responsibilities were not clearly outlined in the contract or the event description that you read online? How many of you had an interview with an account manager or a staffing coordinator and they told you one thing, and then when you get on site to the footprint, is something completely different? And how many of you committed to a program or a one-off event despite the miscommunication, despite the account manager not being as forthcoming with the information? You committed to a program, right? And in your gut, you knew that you shouldn't have did it, but you went on ahead and you moved forward and you did it. And then you executed the program or the event, and you were like, man, I shouldn't have did it because now I have more responsibilities. I'm feeling overworked and underpaid. I'm feeling underappreciated, right? And I don't feel like this company or this agency truly values the work that I have put in, or the activation that I am currently executing in the role that I'm currently serving in as a brand ambassador or a tour manager or a lead. Now, I'm not talking to the EXPs who, quite frankly, have an entitlement mentality. For those of you who don't see the importance of doing quality work, of taking the time to educate yourself prior to executing an event, quite frankly, to the people that are unprofessional, like this is not for you. I'm talking to the EXPs who value their time, their effort, who understand the importance of professionalism, and who, at the end of the day, want to ensure that their brand within a brand, or they represent themselves accordingly. This is who I'm talking to. So for all of you my EXPs, if you guys are out here starting to go back and execute events, right? And you're interviewing for positions and you are not being hired for positions, I want to encourage you to stay the course. The right opportunity, the right tour, the right market management program will come for you. You just got to continue to apply, and stay the course. But I also want to give you guys some red flags to be aware of when you start applying for opportunities, when you're speaking with account managers and staffing coordinators, and you're going through the interview process or the interview phase, prior to committing to any tour or program. So I wrote down some notes because, as you guys know, I can get a little long-winded of some things for you guys to definitely be aware of, be mindful of, and take it to consideration. The red flags, the things that you need to pay attention to and really consider before you decide to work with a account manager, a staffing agency, or an experiential marketing agency. Because for those, especially my EXPs who are going to be serving as tour managers or in-market or regional managers, chances are you're going to be executing programs which are not just one-off programs, meaning you just not going to execute the event and go home. You're going to be working with this agency, this account coordinator, this account manager for weeks, for months on end. So you really got to vet them. Just like they take the time to do a proper interview process with them, you have to make sure that you are asking them questions as well to get a feel for the way that they do business, the way that they represent, the way that they not represent, the way that they run their agency, to ensure that this is a program, or more important, this is an account manager or staffing coordinator that you're going to be comfortable working with throughout the duration of the tour or the in-market or management program. So first red flag you got to be aware of: lack of communication. If the account manager or staffing coordinator is waiting to the last minute to send you details regarding the tour, such as routing, logistics, such as confirmed event dates, if you've asked for this information and they did not give you a timeline or deadline as to when they're going to get this information to you, you definitely got to be aware of that. Also, when it comes to communication, if you are asking them for things such as the compensation, right, and they do not have an answer for you, or you're asking them to communicate specifically what your roles and responsibilities are going to be, what can they expect, or what can you expect as the EXP to have to do when you're executing this program? These are things that the account manager or that staffing coordinator should know, especially if they've posted this job on a Facebook group or they posted it somewhere on Indeed.com or wherever you found this job. They should be able to tell you a lot of the details that you need to know prior to you committing to any type of program. So you definitely got to look at their communication. How quickly do they respond to your emails? How quickly do they take the time to communicate any changes to a tour or event that you're considering? How quickly do they let you know if they're going to be considering other candidates? And that's one thing you definitely need to be asking. Okay, I know you guys are interviewing other potential EXPs or candidates for this position. When are you looking to make a decision? And how will I be notified of that decision? Will it be via phone call or email? And make sure you hold them to that and let them know that you are also looking for other opportunities as well. So a timely response would be greatly appreciated. And you got to look at these things, because I'm here to tell you, if they are having issues now properly communicating with you and you haven't even started working for them in a contractual position, chances are you're going to have these same issues when you are out in the field, when you need answers with regards to on-site contacts, when your fuel card stops working, when you have a flat tire and you don't have the proper roadside information, when you are trying to find out where the staffing agency who may be staffing your brand ambassadors are and where is that communication located, or even something as simple as making sure that you have all the necessary materials and the necessary assets to execute your event or run a show, prime example. So these are some things. If they're not communicating on the simple things, as far as letting you know as to whether or not they're going to move forward with you on a particular tour or program, or whether or not they don't have all the details for a tour or a program, then chances are you're going to have the same issues when it comes to executing this event if you decide to move forward. Again, every agency doesn't conduct their business this way. Shouts out to all the great agencies out there that take care of the EXPs and do a great job. This doesn't apply to you. This only applies to the agencies that, quite frankly, they just drop the ball when it comes to communication. All right. Secondly, they provide inaccurate information. This could be with regards to the routing, the logistics, changes that may occur prior to an event, or quite frankly, they give wrong compensation numbers. Now, working in this industry for as long as I have, I understand that things change at a moment's notice, right? Clients change parameters of a program. It could be assets. It could be number of tour staff. It could be the number of brand ambassadors they want to activate a specific event or program. So a lot of the miscommunication, sometimes the brands do and the clients do wait till the last minute to make these changes, and then the agencies have to adjust accordingly. But at the same time, as an agency, it's important that they provide as accurate information as they can. Sometimes you may run into instances where the dates may change or the compensation numbers may change, and that's fine. But if they are from the beginning, right, straight out the gate, if they are providing inaccurate information with regards to details for a program or a tour, you definitely got to consider that a red flag, because that could affect how you calculate your money that you're going to be making. That could affect your time that you budget to execute a certain event or program. And that could also affect, quite frankly, the trust that you have with that agency or that account manager. So it's important that you, as the experiential marketing professional, you communicate all your concerns initially. All right. Next, what else I have? Oh, they don't provide hiring update. So like I said before, just making sure that if you are interviewing for a potential opportunity, you ask that account manager, when are you looking to make a decision? How many other tour managers or market managers are you considering? What are some things that the client is looking at before they make their final decision? Those are some questions that you can ask the account manager or the staffing coordinator to get a gauge as to whether or not you are being highly considered for a position. But again, oftentimes the client is one who makes the final decision as well. And you may have to go through a second interview if you make it past that first interview and talk to the client, so that they can get a feel and determine whether or not they want you to execute their particular program. All right. Next, they always have an excuse. So if you work with an account manager who every single time you ask them for an update on the routing, an update on this on-site contact, an update on your amount of brand ambassadors for a particular event that you may be managing, and they always have an excuse, or they're always, oh, Jay, I didn't get a chance to get to her. Oh, Jay, it's not me. It's the agency that we're using to staff the brand ambassadors. Or, oh, Jay, just always an excuse. And they're never responding. They're never responding to your texts or your emails when you need them. These are red flags that you definitely got to consider prior to executing any type of program. Now, granted, if you haven't worked with them in the past, you won't know these things, right? You won't know how they handle certain situations until you have an opportunity to work for them. So it's important that you ask other EXPs, hey, have you worked for this agency? What has your experience been like with this account manager? How have they responded to any issues that you've had on site? Although you are the one that's hired, especially in a management role, part of your roles is to troubleshoot issues. You definitely have to make sure that you have a beeline of communication with that account manager or that staffing coordinator that you're going to be working with. But initially, if you're interviewing for a opportunity or a program and they're giving you different information than what's on the job description or the job post that you saw, then you definitely got to ask some questions and find out why has that information changed, or what things down the line are going to be adjusted to reflect what you saw, with that job post, or why did things differ from what you initially saw when you were considering the opportunity? What else I got here? Blames the client. Okay. And lastly, gives indirect answers to important questions. So when you're asking about compensation and you feel like, okay, what you're offering may not be the best numbers, and you go back and you ask, okay, can we negotiate? Give that account manager time to go back and talk. Sometimes they have to talk to a senior account manager. They have to check with their client to see if they have more money in the budget, but give them an opportunity to come back to you with another number. But if they're just quite frankly giving you the runaround when it comes to compensation or the activation or the setup time, you got to count that as a red flag, because at the end of the day, especially on the tour side, you're going to be the one that's out there setting up the activation. You're going to be the one that's going to be breaking down. You're going to be the one that's going to be driving. You're going to be the one responsible for transporting those assets from point A to point B and managing that footprint and ensuring that the activation is successful from an overall event standpoint. So you need someone that is going to understand the dynamics of what goes on a day-to-day basis. Now, granted, many account managers have not worked in the field. A lot of agencies are starting to change that and make sure that they hire more EXPs who have worked in the field, because it just helps with the overall dynamic of understanding the day-to-day operations of an activation, right? And what goes into successfully getting that asset or that tour, or logistically just getting everything from point A to point B, because there are a lot of factors and a lot of things that can change at a moment's notice. And you got to be able to adjust on the fly, especially in a management level, especially in a league level, CDLA level position. These are things that you definitely have to keep in mind. So when you are interviewing or you're speaking to an account manager or account coordinator, and they are giving you they're giving you indirect answers. If you're asking, okay, how long do you guys anticipate for it to set up a breakdown? I don't know, 2-3 hours. Okay, realistically, how much time are you guys budgeting for breakdown? We haven't decided yet, but we anticipate it should take no more than 2 hours. Anticipating and knowing your numbers and knowing how long it takes to set up and break down is important. So I always encourage, work with agencies who understand logistics, work with agencies who take the time to go out to their fabricators. And this is on the tour side, and look at the assets. Now, this may not always guarantee that they know what the setup and breakdown is, but if they can tell you, okay, this is this footprint size, this is what we allotted. What is your input, Jay? What do you think? Based on the experience you have, what have you seen in the past? The agencies that create that fluid dialogue with the EXP, especially the ones that have been on the tour side and understand that, hey, we may not know everything, but that's why we've hired you as the expert, and they trust your judgment. Those are the ones that you run with. But on the flip side, as an experiential marketing professional, you got to work to gain that trust. You got to make sure that you know what you're talking about. You got to make sure that you know that you have the experience to go out and say, okay, this is 100 by 100 footprint. I anticipate I'm going to need this many labor staff, this many brand ambassadors. It's going to take this amount of time for us to set up and break down. Now, granted, a lot of this doesn't happen until maybe your first or second activation. Once you've had time to put your hands on the assets, once you've had time to actually, set it up, everything, do a full activation, a full breakdown. As you continue to do this on a day-to-day basis or event by event basis, you're going to find ways to be more efficient, right? You're going to find ways to pack your box truck or pack your tour vehicle or pack your truck or your trailer. You're going to find better ways to be more efficient and cut your time in half. But at the same time, you got to make sure initially, when you are interviewing for tour opportunities, when you are interviewing for in-market management opportunities, which may require you to deal with on-premise or off-premise activations, wine and spirits, alcohol to be as a prime example, and you may have 4 or 5 different locations, bar activations in one night, or you may have to go to a storage unit to retrieve POS. What does that look like from a day-to-day basis? And an account manager or a staffing coordinator who is hiring for this position, they should be able to give you some insight and some things that you definitely need to keep in mind prior to you committing to any type of program. If they can't answer those basic questions, again, these are red flags and things that you got to be aware of, because this could be tall tale signs of what you're going to be dealing with, what headaches you may have if you decide to move forward in the future and commit to this type of activation or this type of long-term tour or program. All right. So I'm going to give you guys solutions because I'm a solutions-based person. If you're interviewing for an opportunity, you really love this opportunity, or those red flags popping up and you're just not feeling it, here are some things that you got to definitely keep in mind, or things you got to implement. Number one, you got to be direct. You got to ask for what you want and ask for what you need. If you're going to be executing a tour, if you're going to be working in an in-market management opportunity, long-term programs, and you're speaking to this account manager, staffing coordinator, and those red flags are coming up, you got to be direct and say, hey, look, A, B, C, and D was not that clear. I'm not really understanding what the roles and responsibilities are going to be. So how do I fit into this program? What are your expectations of me? And my expectations for you is that you communicate effectively, that if you have any certain changes with regards to this program, that I am notified so that I can adjust on my end. You also have to communicate the value that you're going to bring, right? If you've been executing events long enough, you know how you run your tours, how you run your activations, what you expect from brand ambassadors, what you expect from on-site contacts. And quite frankly, you know what you expect when you're dealing with account managers and staffing coordinators. So you have to be upfront with that initially. It's not being abrasive. You don't need to come off as aggressive. You can just state your roles and you can state your expectations for them so that you can establish those open lines of communication. And there's nothing wrong with being honest. I am big with being honest with regards to expectations, because that means that everybody knows what they are expected to do, quite frankly, and everybody can be on one accord and work together to make sure the program is successful. All right. But if you're having those red flags and it's an agency that you have worked with in the past, or maybe the account manager's no longer there, because we're seeing a lot of shift, right, with regards to activations and regards to account managers leaving since the pandemic. So talk with that new account manager or talk with that previous account manager and just make sure that you have outlined your roles, your responsibilities with them, but also your expectations of them, because they have expectations of you as well. Next, if you're going to do a great job, provide by you, expect the same. And lastly, know your worth. I talk about this all the time, and I had a call with an EXP today, and we talked in detail, because she was going through some things with the agency who dumped some things on her last minute with regards to a activation that they wanted her to execute, and none of that was conveyed prior. And I told her, at the end of the day, you have to not only communicate your concerns, but if you don't feel comfortable, if you feel like, that agency did not do a great job of communicating to you, especially if this is a last minute activation and you don't have any of the event details, but you're expected to just make things happen and make magic happen, you can't do it. There's no way humanly possible for you to do it and do it successfully. So you got to make sure that at the end of the day that you know your worth. If you feel like the time, the effort, the energy that's going to take for you to successfully activate this tour or this in-market program is going to require more than the compensation is requiring, you definitely got to ask for it. You definitely got to make sure that it makes sense for you financially. If you're being asked to do things above what you were contractually obligated to perform, then you have to come back to the drawing table with that account manager or with that agency and say, hey, my roles and responsibilities said A, B, C, and D. Now I'm being asked to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I didn't sign up for that. So I would like to stay on this program, but we're going to have to talk about ways in which we can increase the compensation. And at that point, it's going to be up to the agency to decide whether or not they want to keep you or they want to find somebody else. But if they decide to move forward with someone else, are you okay with that? Because at the end of the day, if you know in your gut feeling, right, that a particular tour or particular program is going to be more of a headache than more of a benefit for you to execute it, and then you actually commit to the program, and then you're showing up every day with a bad attitude, you act like you don't want to be there, you may be having, moments of unprofessionalism or feeling like you're overworked and underpaid, who are you really doing a disservice to? Yeah, the consumers are going to be affected. Yes, the brand ambassadors that you may be managing are going to be affected. But more importantly, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're selling yourself short on the skills that you have, that you've obtained in the industry. And you're also creating an environment where you just, the energy and how you communicate with the account manager and staff coordinator may not be in a positive way. And they may not know why. So before you decide to commit to any program, to any activation, to any tour, pay attention to these red flags. I dropped a lot in this, and definitely share this. Go back and watch this later, take some notes. But pay attention to the red flags. Communication for me is extremely important. And I look at that before I decide to execute any tour. Do you communicate in a timely manner? Do you provide me the details that I'm asking for in a timely manner? If I'm not considered for the position, do you at least follow up and let me know that you went with someone else? Those things matter to me. Integrity matters to me. Also, you got to be mindful of how you're presenting yourself. Do you carry yourself in a professional way? Do you make sure that you're on time for activation? Do you make sure that you communicate effectively? Do you make sure that you take the time to educate yourself on the key talking points? Do you take the time before you even have an interview to research the agency or the brand or the type of tour you may be executing? These are some things that you got to do on your end as an EXP to be proactive so you don't have a reactive mentality, when you are applying for these opportunities. So the red flags a lot of times are things that we can avoid. Right? When we're dealing with agencies and we're applying for opportunities, we see the red flags. I've been a part of programs where I knew that this is going to be more than I bargained for, that the communication wasn't there, that the indirect answers were there, that the miscommunication was there. But I took on those opportunities in spite of. And I'm going to have to be honest with you. Sometimes, I worked through it, and I kept a smile on my face and I remained professional and I finished the program, but I did say, I'll never work for this agency again. And other times I kicked myself in the foot because I knew it. I knew it even before committing. I saw the red flags and I still went with it. And I was mad at myself for doing so because I didn't trust my gut. I didn't trust my instinct, right? So I want to encourage all of you as you guys start applying for opportunities, as you start moving forward for, to interview for tour opportunities, as you start, I hope you've already revamped your resume, as you start getting back out here, right? And being a part of programs or even serving in management roles or even being interviewed for opportunities, have some questions to ask these account managers and staff coordinators, and make sure you pay attention to how they answer them. Make sure you pay attention to the red flags, because oftentimes the red flags are there and we choose to ignore them because we want to get in with an agency because we think things going to change. And we soon find out that things just stay the same. All right. So I hope you guys are enjoying your week. Be safe out there if you guys are going to be executing any events. Remember, you guys are a brand, not only within a brand, but you are a brand as well. So you got to represent yourself accordingly. And more importantly, know your worth. This is just not experiential. This is any business you have. This is any project that you're going to be on. This is even in relationships and dealing with people, you got to know your worth. All right. Because if you don't value yourself and your time and your energy and your efforts that you put into things, how do you expect other people to value it? All right. I'll check in with you guys later on. Enjoy the rest of your week.